You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250, where we look at events that took place 250 years ago this week. This is from the American Revolution Podcast, just a short bonus episode to remind you about important anniversaries from the Revolutionary War. This week, we remember the destruction of Enoch Brown's Tavern. On July 8, 1775, British General John Burgoyne sent a message through the enemy lines to Charles Lee. At the time, Burgoyne was the fourth-ranking officer in the British Army at Boston. Lee was the third-ranking officer in the new Continental Army. About a little over a decade earlier, Lee had served under Burgoyne when Britain was battling Spain during the 7 Years' War. Lee had sent Burgoyne a letter criticizing his old commander for leading an army that was seeking to crush the liberty of British colonists in America. Burgoyne suggested that the two officers meet for a talk at Enoch Brown's Tavern. This tavern sat on Boston Neck between the two enemy lines. Lee wanted to meet with Burgoyne, but could not have communications with the enemy unless he first received formal permission to do so. He put his request to the Massachusetts Provincial Congress, which conditioned a meeting on the limitation that Elbridge Gerry, a Patriot leader, also attend the meeting, lest the two officers try to negotiate some deal that was not authorized by the Continental Congress. The meeting, however, never took place. The night before the meeting, a volunteer force led by two Continental officers pulled two cannons within range of the tavern. They opened fire on the tavern and other nearby houses, forcing the British advance guard to flee. The next day, the British moved their own artillery forward. The Americans burned the houses on the neck and withdrew. With no more houses between the two lines, the meeting between the two generals was canceled. The following day, July 9th, General Washington held his first council of war to decide what actions, if any, the new army should take. Their first question was to make their best guess about how large the British Army in Boston was. They estimated about 11,500 men. This was probably double the actual number. Next, they determined that they should continue to maintain their siege lines and agreed that they should have at least 22,000 men for this purpose. Since they currently had fewer than this, an officer from each company would be sent home to recruit a new regiment, and that Massachusetts militia would be called up to maintain the lines until these new recruits could arrive. The council also debated naming a rendezvous point south of Boston in case the British attacked and broke their lines. They also discussed the idea of occupying Dorchester Point. The council voted down both ideas. They did, however, agree to put a beacon on Blue Hill and collect 10 horses that help them carry intelligence throughout the army. The following day, July 10th, the new Adjutant General of the Army, Horatio Gates, issued orders regarding the recruitment of soldiers. These rules said, "You are not to enlist any deserter from the ministerial army, nor any stroller, Negro, vagabond, or person suspected of being an enemy to the liberty of America, nor any under 18 years of age. As the cause is the best that can engage men of courage and principle to take up arms, so it is expected that none but such will be accepted by the recruiting officers. The pay, provisions, etc. being so ample, it is not doubted but the officers sent upon this service will, without delay, complete their respective corps and march the men forthwith to camp. You are not to enlist any person who is not an American born, unless such person has a wife and family and is a settled resident in this country. Persons you enlist must be provided with good and complete arms." With the decision to do nothing more and wait until the new recruits arrived, both armies settled back into their siege lines with very little action over the following weeks. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. For more of the story, please visit your favorite podcast platform, including Apple or Spotify, and subscribe for free to the American Revolution Podcast.